fanficmedia.com presents Beyond the Wall, a Game of Thrones podcast. With hosts Christiana Ellis, Chooch Schubert, Vivid Muse, and Nuchtchas. Well, hello everybody.
Hey!
Welcome to Season 6 of Beyond the Wall. Tonight we're discussing Episode 9 of HBO's Game of Thrones, titled Battle of the Bastards. With
How
no
did we get
spoilers.
here, guys? How did we get
Past currently aired episodes. I'm Chooch. That's Viv.
Hi.
Hi. We also have Nutty with us.
Hello.
Oh, it's not switching. Stop.
Specfic Media is no longer presenting.
I love these little
Yeah.
pop-ups that we're getting tonight.
Christiana
Present-splaining.
Ellis.
Present-splaining.
Sorry.
Yeah, we were just talking about throne-splaining.
Yes.
We prefer it to mansplaining.
Yes, I'm Christiana Ellis. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Yeah, it's been an interesting day, so we're a little out of sorts, but we're here. We had a pretty exciting episode with really just two scenes. Well, not scenes, but two locations.
Yeah.
We had, let's see, news-wise up front. I didn't have any show news. Viv had a little bit of news, though.
Yes. So first I would like to say happy shitting, everyone. Was that not one of the favorite lines from the episode? Good old Tormund. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to let folks know, because a lot of folks that know us also know our friend James Durham, and he and friend and writing partner John Becker have written and now filmed, and we are about to do the sneak peek of it coming up on July 18th. And I just really wanted to mention it because the film, yes, it's actually a series. This is the first in the series that is hopefully going to raise funding to generate the actual whole film at one time to preserve the cast and all these things. But I just want to mention it because it's something I really believe in, and the cast and crew are uniquely awesome, and the collaborative energy was just absolutely lovely. And Nutty actually came to the set when she visited for my birthday in September, and I think you met all of the primary cast.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we may have been a little hungover, but it was still really, it was still a really beautiful day and a fun vibe, and the just the way everybody came together for this common goal has just been really amazing, and really, you know, I just literally tagged along while Chooch has been doing sound, and he's done everything. I don't know what the exact titles are, but he's done everything from run along the young stars as she's running to keep the boom mic in front of her to catch the, you know, the sounds of her feet hitting the mud and stuff like that, to recording the dialogue and ADR, and lots of squinting at his monitor with headphones on. And lots of great things are coming from that, according to James. But it is coming up on July 18th, and we're creating a Facebook event for it. It's primarily something that's being managed through Evite, just because there is limited seating. However, at this time there's more seating available, so we're, you know, kind of going public with that and letting people know. And it's just really exciting. They let me kind of tag along with Chooch while he was doing sound, and I took pictures. And because I have no life, I've been advising them on a little bit of Facebook stuff, and so it's just been really fun because I've got to meet everybody and like take pictures, which is like my favorite thing in the world to do, and they actually like them enough to use them, so it's kind of like really cool, you know. And it's that indie film experience, and if anybody can come July 18th, that would be fantastic. It'll be in Greenbelt, Maryland, and you can contact us for more information. Or just, you know, watch our other stuff, and we'll be talking about that as things go online and such.
And I am so bummed I can't go to the screening.
I saw he invited you, and I was like, oh, I know she can't, but
well,
oh, he's so cool.
Tech worked as a consultant on this film and did a couple of Skype interviews and demonstrations and so forth. So we had tickets saved for us, but of course that is the first day Tech is back in the field, so
Of course.
to miss it.
Well, you'll be missed, that's for
Yes.
sure. We're really excited. We've got a couple of fun things planned for that night, and then showing the film. It's just really exciting to see this kind of little baby be birthed. It's just cool. And we have a favorite. We get together. We got together last week for the ADR and went to the same old IHOP afterwards and just had dinner together and goofed around. It was just, they're such a fun group of people that I really hope that it becomes something that can continue with the same people, because they're just amazing. It's kind of like going to Balticon the first year. It's like, how is everybody so awesome? I'm really suspicious about this kind of thing. And then we're just sharing pancakes. I'm like, whatever, we're just going to enjoy it while we can, kind of a thing. And then another thing that's actually show related that I wanted to talk about is to please make sure you give us a like on Facebook. We are planning for some post-season episodes. At least one. I think it'll probably end up being more like 2 or 3, but there's one that is going to be specifically spoiler-filled. It's going to have warnings throughout it, but we're finally, Christiana and Nutty and I are going to get to talk spoilers. If there's, even if it's already happened, we can go back and talk about, oh my God, do you remember when that? And we couldn't say a thing because all that kind of stuff. So I'm really looking forward
book
to that.
spoilers.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about
Yes.
the future of the
Oh,
show.
absolutely.
Only
I'm
just
sorry.
what's in the books. Yeah.
And
Thank
we're
you.
not going to go into Winds of Winter spoilers. We're just
Right.
dragons, and that's it.
Right, because the Winds of Winter stuff isn't canon until it's published, I don't think.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to do was see if, Christiana and Nutty, if you want, I can try and find somebody that's more has read all of the graphic novels and read The World of Ice and Fire and read all of the books and has that kind of encyclopedia knowledge. I have a friend like that for Lord of the Rings, and I consider you guys that for this show. But if there's anybody, because Chooch won't be on that show, I'll have to moderate it so we don't spoil him from the books. But if you can think of anybody, or if anybody wants to volunteer for that, I've got to talk to Nutty and Christiana more about that before we talk about bringing anybody else on. But just contact me or us via the Facebook or our email address, which is at the end of the episode. What we have planned so far is a few what-if episodes, as in what if blank didn't blank, similar to what we did for our Balticon live show. Seemed like a good way to explain it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It took us down some interesting kind of rabbit holes, and it actually spawned some more conversations that we want to have. It was really fun. And on a more serious note, I would like to personally apologize and explain to the viewers on why I frequently go silent during the episodes, or I'm just not there anymore, or if I don't show up at all. And I really appreciate the messages I've gotten. I've been trying to sneak off the air so as not to make a fuss, and a couple of people, that's made them worry. So I'm fine. But I do have, for people that don't know, I have physical and neurological health conditions with a hair trigger. And if, now, I'm nervous as usual, but even if I'm feeling my best when we start, I just can't go what the show organically clocks out at, which is between 90 minutes and 180 minutes. We've tried to do it on a shorter length, and it's just not possible. And so I just want people to know that I'm fine. It's the same old health stuff. It's just that this season are really emotionally charged episodes and discussions, and it just that in combination being on computer for a long time, it's just blah. It's just it's disappointing for me, because it's something that it's not just a show that we do anymore. It's kind of a promise that we've made. And I am trying to get my voice on here as often as possible since PG liked it. And so what Chooch and I have decided is that with all the notes and stuff that I've been doing, we're going to figure out some way for me to record that and just get that included and get my viewpoints out without having to rehash everything again, and Nutty and Christiana having to have the same conversations again. And that's pretty much it. I did that also kind of led me to ask, though, because that's going to be part of what we do in the off season, because we're kind of horrified that there's only like 13 that we know of other than this season. Our knowledge is that there's 13 episodes left, right? That's the news that we've been getting so far between
well,
two
so,
seasons.
Yeah, not
Technically
counting the
14.
coming week. Yeah.
So it's like, we've got a lot to say still, I think. And so we're coming up with these ideas. So if you have any discussions that you want to have, I know that we have people that watch us, and we have discussions on the side and in Facebook messaging and stuff like that. But if there's a topic or anything that you want to talk about, just shoot us a message. We always love ideas to talk about this world more. And the clock is ticking. We only get 2 more seasons. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
So I actually have a little bit of an update on that. There is season 7 and season 8. Apparently, a lot of the cast are getting pay raises for season 8, so that's cool.
I'm so glad. I didn't have time to read that.
And but it says that they are unclear on how many episodes there will be for all of them. So
That might just mean that a bunch of them are going to bite it before the end.
Yeah. Nobody knows who's going to be standing at the end, not even the actors at this point.
So it is theorized that they would be shortened seasons to match what the creators originally intended for 75 episodes for the entire run of the show, which would give us 15 more episodes. But nobody said that's what's happening. So fingers crossed we get 2 more full seasons. That's what I'll hope for.
Yeah.
As long as the story permits.
Yeah. Jennifer in the Q&A says maybe there will be a spin-off.
Ooh.
I hope when I'm afraid about the withdrawal. Oh, I see. She's just saying, I hope there will be a spin-off because we all fear, I think, the withdrawal for when the show is over.
I want a Dunk and Egg spin-off. That's what I want.
Totally. That would be great.
Yeah, there's a lot to mine there. They could easily do it.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't really seemed to be HBO's way, but this is the most successful show they've ever produced. So,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the most successful show, we have a I'm going to say somewhat successful episode.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's essentially 2 locations. I was thinking of starting at Winterfell.
Oh.
Okay.
The show technically opened in Marine, but hey, it's only two things.
Sure.
And this is the one that I had issues with. I think I'm getting grumpier. But, so this opens. Winterfell opens with the parlay. John wants to or challenges Ramsay to 1-on-1 combat, and Ramsay is obviously not dumb enough to fall for it.
Yeah.
And, so we've got the usual Winterfell cast there, out in the light, and witty repartee.
Yeah. The first meeting of John and Ramsay. They had not met each other at all previously.
I really think, by the way, Chooch, you need to tell the viewers your show notes, your synopsis for each of these locations.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Spill it, noob.
The location 1, Winterfell, synopsis, bullshit. That was my takeaway. Not all of it. So it starts really well, I think. Ramsay is extra super creepy. Of course, he's very excited to look at Sansa lasciviously and try to make her uncomfortable, and she ain't having it.
Nope.
She has taken back her power.
This is another scene where I swear they were listening to our podcast somehow and going back in time and rewriting the episodes, because it explains everything that we talked about of why would I take that option? Why would I do 1-on-1 combat? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of the same reason that Rob didn't do it when Jamie challenged him, because it's dumb. It's just dumb. And I honestly think my objection to the very concept of it, even outside of the story, is just I feel like there's no way the losing side would ever even take that as like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll go home now.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not even like trial by combat where there's like this whole tradition and culture set up around it. I mean, really, okay, fine, you two had a battle, but you two fought, but I still got a whole army here. You know, I'm not giving up.
And it was, you know, a nice attempt by John, you know, see if your men follow you. Now they know you weren't willing to die for them, which but they wouldn't give a shit, especially since they're not going to get word, and this is all going to go down pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to necessarily jump ahead to the next scene, but I definitely thought that Sansa's assessment of what happened in this scene was accurate, which is that John was trying to play head games with Ramsay, but is vastly underestimating how smart and how cruel Ramsay can be, and is basically, I mean, you know, he's a kitten batting at a mountain lion.
Yep.
When it comes to mind games.
Yeah, he's been dealing with like really simple, you know, frozen people that want either to just want to immediately hack you. There's no mind games. There's no. I mean, he's so inexperienced in this, and it just really shows. And that was really like he did exactly what they told him not to do. He played right into Ramsay's hands. It was kind of disappointing after everything we've seen him go through, and as much as he's grown, but it just also shows how much he really needed to save his little brother too, you know?
Yeah.
Like he really needed that win.
Yeah.
Not even your brother, it's some other actor. He's not even close to the same age.
And can I say that I noted on all 4 viewings that there was a striking similarity in my eyes between Rickon and Ollie from Castle Black, the little boy. Especially when he was laid out on the ground. It was like, oh. And I think that knowing that he had killed a child that's roughly the same, he looked about the same age as Rickon anyways, at least on the last episode he was on, you know, that had to make it extra painful for him looking back on everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can jump back and forth too. So this was one of the initial bullshit things for me, you know. I understand.
I have to interrupt. It's the same freaking actor. He grew up fast. It's the same actor from episode 1. I did not think it was. I thought
I thought you were joking about how much he changed.
I really thought that
No, I totally recognized him. Yeah.
I thought they did what they did with Tom, and I am very surprised because he looks as old as Bran now. So wow.
Well, there's a big height thing that goes on, and there's a heightening, and then there's a developing within that. And I think Rickon got the height right away.
I honestly also suspect that there might be a sort of case where the kid that you cast as the little kid character doesn't necessarily grow up to be a great actor. And that might explain why Rickon didn't even get to say a single sentence.
That's true.
He shows up in 2 different episodes and gets killed without actually talking.
Well, and then it was like creepy stuff. Remember one time he like jumped out of one of the side crypts and it was like all blah blah blah, you know, and the dog, his direwolf was. I mean, it was only really brief and like you said, it was like hardly any dialogue, but it was all creepy.
Yeah, the show.
Didn't get to know him at all.
Honestly, Rickon was never actually a character in any meaningful way. He was a prop.
Yeah.
And the casting can't be great for all the kid actors. I mean, considering how well they did with every other child actor on the show,
I think Rickon
they gotta have one.
I think Rickon did a good job. I just, you know, it's one of those things.
I suspect his role was cut back as a result of him maybe not being as good as they were hoping.
Well, he certainly doesn't know what to do when somebody's firing arrows at you, because that was the first bullshit for me. So they have to.
He's a child.
Have to die.
Just
like
remember
Sansa, like Sansa said, this did have to happen. He did have to die.
Yep.
But this was just a stupid way to me, you know. I don't care if he's a kid. Running in a straight line with somebody shooting arrows is just fucking stupid. And
Yeah.
anybody could have said zigzag for one, but
Serpentine.
yeah, it was just.
I hear you, and certainly you're not the only person to feel that way. It's pretty, I think, common reaction from a lot of people on that scene. It didn't it occurred to me during the scene, but it didn't bother me that much for a couple of reasons. One is just the obviousness of how the character was going to die no matter what, both within the story context and also just within the TV show context of there's no point for his character to exist in the episode if they're not going to kill him, honestly.
Yeah.
So from a TV show standpoint, he's definitely going to die. And in the story, there's no way Ramsay actually is letting him go, and this is all a head game. He has it under his control. The instant that Ramsay thought he might not actually be able to kill him exactly when he wanted, he would have just had all of his archers let loose to make sure it happened. No way Rickon was ever going to make it to the other side of that field.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of why it didn't bother me as much anyway. And also I feel like, when would this kid have been trained in evasive running maneuvers? And that's probably hard to shoot. And I don't mean shoot like with an arrow, I mean like with a camera. It's like it's more dramatic looking, it's clearer to the audience what's happening, even though, yes, it seems like if you were in real life trying to run away from someone shooting arrows at you, it would make sense to try to dodge around.
My point is, with the power of Hollywood, dodging an arrow or being shot with an arrow in the middle of a battlefield is fucking stupid.
Fair enough.
They could have done anything. Ramsay's imagination could have done anything. Yeah. And once again, this was purely plot, that they wanted him to die in John's arms so that he would be infuriated and charge into hailing arrows.
Yeah.
For no reason, because he would die.
I was expecting Ramsay to send the dogs after him across the battlefield.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for any of it, but I was immediately pissed off at OSHA for not having better taught him how to hide in the 2 seasons since they left Bran. She should have fucking taught him how to evade better than... and again, I said it myself. He was a child, and he's seeing his brother and his... Well, I guess he wasn't seeing Sansa in that view, but he was seeing his brother for the first time since how many years have elapsed on the show. Mm-hmm. And most of that has been spent in hiding. Since season 1, hasn't he been in hiding? Or was it season 2 that they went into hiding?
It was season 2 that they left Winterfell.
Okay.
But they separated from Bran at the end of season 3, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we haven't seen him since the end of season 3. And what we're led to understand is that in that time, they've not just been tromping through the woods, they've been with the Umbers, who then decided to turn them over to Ramsay.
Yeah.
So I think that it's... I
guess I missed that. I guess I didn't catch that on the show, that it was the Umbers just had him and handed him over to the Boltons.
They don't really go into how long he was there, but we weren't given any other information for where he was during that time. So I just assumed that's where it would have made sense for them to go, is to try to find a friendly house that would hide them.
I just figured OSHA had them out in the wild all this time. I don't know. I just missed that.
Yeah.
It's good to know, though.
Well, that they didn't really say. But that was just my assumption. Jennifer in the Q&A says, maybe he just totally focused on John and ran towards his brother, which, I think in a story context, that is what happened. He was terrified. He wasn't sure if he should have hope or not, that he just had his wrists cut. He doesn't necessarily understand what's happening with the fullness required, and so for all he knows, if he can just get away fast enough, he's focused on getting as far away as possible, as quick as possible, which means not going back and forth and zigzagging. We know that Ramsay's a great archer, but Rickon doesn't necessarily know that.
I also think even if you know you are 100% going to die, you are still going to run. You know, yeah, he could have serpentined, but it's not that big a deal. But I think, you know, no matter what, you know you're going to die, you're still going to have some kind of a response. And Rickon was not the type to just sit there and let it happen. He was going to run.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still going to back Chooch on being a grump about this, because had I been on last week's show, you would have known that Nutty, by the way, I rated the show 6 out of 10.
Ooh.
I took it down 1 every time they had a soap opera moment, as I called it. I think that that's what Chooch is calling a bullshit moment. And so, like, there were just 4 different times that I said, no, I don't watch soap operas anymore for a reason. But I think that that was similar, and especially the way they made you think that the one arrow was going to hit him, and you were sure that that one was going to hit him, and then it missed him, and then they didn't show him showing the arrow that time, and then it explodes. That was he drove off, and his head got cut off, and he comes back on the show a year later with his head sewn back on. Some crazy soap opera shit. And so, I mean, I can understand, and who know, you know, he was so young at Winterfell. You can argue both sides, but it was still bullshit. None of us wanted to see it happen, and it says a lot, I think, about Sansa, that she was so cold-hearted about it. She was so surgical about the whole thing. It's just leading me to some disturbing worries about her.
Well, like, I'll certainly agree that, I mean, the idea of what's the smart thing to do when you're running away from someone trying to shoot you with an arrow, I mean, obviously, it would be better to zigzag. I mean, there's no question there.
Right, yeah.
So it didn't bother me that much that in the context of the story that he didn't do that, even though obviously, yes, that would have been better strategically. But I will also say that, like, maybe part of it is that I was a little bit like Sansa in the sense that it really never even crossed my mind that he wasn't going to die.
I did not give up hope until the arrow pierced his heart.
Well, right, and so, but I don't want to disagree with you because it's subjective.
Well, you can't. It's my opinion. I had hope.
Well, what I'm going to say, though,
not arguable.
Well, okay, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is, sometimes when, you know, a story happens where something happens that's upsetting, I would argue at least that that doesn't make it bullshit. It makes it a sad thing happened in the story. And it might even be something you didn't want to have happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's...
That's not what I'm saying, and I don't think that's what Chooch is saying either. I don't think it's a, gee, I didn't like it. You know, I think it's a just not liking the way they executed it. I think there's a difference there.
Okay.
So, I also expected him to die, and I was just sitting there going, all right, how bad is this going to hurt? Not how bad is it going to hurt Rickon? How bad is this going to hurt me? Because the show likes to hurt me. So, and while we were watching that scene, all I could think of was Sansa talking to Jon. And but the truth is, it's like, Jon knows he's being played, but when you're dealing with emotions like that, like, you can't just turn them off. I think if Jon were to not run across the field after Rickon, then he wouldn't be Jon.
That's what's gotten him to survive thus far, for sure. And you can tell when it occurred to him that maybe I should have thought about this, and that's when the entire when he's got a wall of army in front of him, and he just takes off his belt and sword and is like, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Yeah, that was the total I've made a terrible mistake moment. It was just, it was perfect, frame perfect.
I don't think he wasn't taking it off like he was out. He was drawing his sword to prepare to fight.
I mean, I'm not going to argue over descriptors, but I mean, I think he had a moment of recognition, like, I've made a huge mistake, like Chooch said, that maybe he bit off a little more than he could chew in doing the opposite of what he was advised to do by absolutely everyone. And believe me, I buy the passion thing. Yeah. I buy the acting on instinct and all of that. It's just, It was just disappointing character-wise. I'm not gonna lie. I was disappointed that he did exactly what everybody told him not to.
Okay, we're talking about two different things. So
At least two different things.
Rickon's death did not bother me in the way that you guys are describing. I mean, I won't dispute that that's subjective, but to me, it didn't bother me at all. Part of it was maybe just because I was expecting it, but also I thought that the editing actually added tension and personally gave it more impact to me than it would have had told more conventionally. Because for a moment, it gave me like, oh, is he going to make it? What's going on here? And then, nope, there it is. And so I thought that that was effective. What I will agree that John's response, basically playing right into Ramsay's hands and doing exactly what Sansa warned him about, is disappointing from a character perspective. And I honestly, I mean, obviously John made a very bad decision there. It was based on emotion, which we can say is the reason, but I wouldn't call it a justification. Yeah. It's not. I mean, how many thousands of his men were killed because of that, his inability to keep his emotions under control there, and so that's very frustrating. But for me, at least, I still see it as frustrating within the context of the story. I'm not critical of the episode. I'm critical of the character in a good story making a bad decision. That's how I felt about it.
I story-wise, I think it works, or at least it works for me. And yeah, tactically, wrong choice. And to me, when he unsheathes the sword, it's basically, I'm not going to have to sheath this again. Toss the sheath aside, He was just going to go and fight. And I love the whole anticipation of it. And then, oh, crap, everybody's here. Oh, I guess I'm not alone. I thought that was kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. I thought so, too.
I'm in total agreement with the John charge that I think, it's a stupid thing for him to do, but at least I bought that he would do that because he's already gone this far. But backing up to the War Council the night before, Sansa afterwards, the complains that John didn't ask her opinion. Well, she could have fucking spoke up. She's never been totally quiet.
She was in the room
before. She was in the room. She was there. She should have been a part of the conversation. That was just stupid. And not saying anything about Baelish is just irresponsible and stupid. Yeah. I don't see any reason, and I don't see that they've given any reason. Mm-hmm. Okay. Any valid reason to me, at least, why she wouldn't have said anything at all when she's saying, I told you we needed to wait. And then he says, well, what are we going to do? And she said, well, even if she hadn't gotten a letter back yet,
she could have told him.
She had to have said she sent it, that there could be an army. Yeah. It's just, there's no excuse for that. I don't see any excuse for that.
So
it's written in the script. Why would you not say anything?
She has spoken up in meetings with the same people present before.
Yes.
So I don't understand why she didn't speak up, and I'm pretty sure the reason she didn't speak up is because she didn't know what to say, And so then she complains to him, and I agree 100%. A little bit of communication, that would have went a long way. You asked for troops, you want John to wait, you tell him, by the way, I've asked for troops from the Vale. Let's give them a fortnight, Let's
agree. I can't forgive her. I lay Rickon's death at her feet. I think if she had even told him, don't make that face at me, Christiana, Nutty. Don't you dare.
I made it too, sorry.
I don't care. I lay that at her feet because that battle was lost before they even got on the field that morning. She should have told him, and I don't think she will ever have an explanation that I will believe was other than calculating and self-preserving, because she got John riled up to fight for Winterfell and then didn't tell him everything that she knew. And she used Rickon as an emotional tool to get him to fight and go get Winterfell. And then she said, well, he was going to die all along. I mean, I feel like she's playing both sides. It's going to take a lot for me to trust her the way I used to. Like, I had an open heart for her and Arya, and I trusted them as being good people. I think she's just been crushed under the wheel of this game too long and manipulated between Joffrey, Cersei, Baelish himself, and crazy old Lysa. I mean, she's got to be some pretty messed up. She, as the play that we saw a couple episodes showed, she was on the whatever balcony, whatever, when her father was beheaded. I mean, she has been through some shit. Are we going to just assume that all the people that started out good are going to remain good, or are we going to acknowledge the progressions that we're seeing? Because she's, this last bit, just really, I think she's, now that she has the power to do things, I'm hoping that after this episode she comes through it, but I'm not sure that she will. I think she will always have a tinge of that cruelty, and I don't think it's going to go away, and I'm kind of nervous about that now. I was nervous like that about Arya earlier in the season. After the last episode that she was on, I'm like, praise baby Jesus, whatever. But with Sansa, I'm just getting more and more concerned with every episode.
I think had they waited for Baelish, Rickon would be dead anyway. Rickon was going to die, and he was going to be dead no matter what. I do not blame Sansa for Rickon's death, because he'd just be dead anyway. If they didn't show up on that battlefield, if they tried to do a siege, if they tried to do anything outside of what had happened, he'd be dead before they could do anything. So that's my opinion there, is I think no matter what happens, Rickon was going to be dead. I do think that she should have, you're on a war council. You include all of your information. And the only reason I can foresee that she didn't hold that information is that somehow she got word that they'd be coming and she wanted to look like the hero or something. But that just doesn't mesh with what we know of her.
Yeah.
But at the same time, do we really know what's going on?
Yeah.
So.
What do you, Chooch, where do you stand? You said pretty clearly. I realized that Rickon was probably going to die. It's Ramsay Bolton. It's a miracle that Theon and Sansa, as he likes to say it, got out. But I think that she ensured it. She was so sure that it was going to happen that she didn't leave any room in her heart, or not heart, but in her planning mind, strategy for him possibly being saved. And so that's what I mean when I say that. His fate was sealed before they even walked on the field that morning, because it was too late for Jon to pull back. Or Ramsay already had dead people on his little fancy crosses. It was too late at that point. He already had the noose around, or not the noose, but the hands tied, and he already had Rickon right next to him. The time to have said something was the night before. I agree completely with Chooch.
So I'm definitely, I'm prepared now to play Sansa's advocate.
All right.
I will start by saying
please,
that
and thank you.
You guys are not wrong in anything you said. And in fact, I have said a couple of times already this season that I foresaw bad things resulting from Sansa not telling Jon about what was going on with Littlefinger. So I think I'm on the record as disapproving of that decision, and foreseeing bad things resulting. But there's a few things that I want to defend her on, and one is, several. One of them is her behavior at the War Council and not speaking up. I would argue that part of the reason she didn't speak up is because she wanted to communicate to her brother on a personal level that he was not listening to her. This was not about proposing strategy in a war council, because she didn't have an alternate strategy. What she was telling him is, you are underestimating him, and you are not listening to me when I tell you that you are underestimating him. And this is going to be a terrible mistake. And she didn't want to say that to him in front of his other guys. It's different than proposing a different strategy. That's calling him out for a personal behavior that he has repeatedly demonstrated over the course of the season since they've reunited.
But did they have no time to talk between the last scene that we saw them in and the scene at the war council? I mean, why couldn't she have pulled him to the side?
I assumed that this was her pulling him to the side because she has repeatedly tried to talk to him and he wouldn't listen to her. He has been saying, remember in previous episodes.
Again, I agree with you on her trying to get John to understand he's a crazy man.
She has been saying in the previous episodes where they're trying to get more and more men, she does not want to write to Littlefinger. She wants to get more men another way. And she doesn't want to tell John because she doesn't want him to force her to do it. I mean, you guys, I've heard several people say that they think that she kept it a secret because they thought that John wouldn't work with him. I don't think that was ever it. I think it was always that she didn't want to deal with him at all and was worried that if she floated it as even a possibility, he would take it without really even considering how much what that meant for her.
What it could cost her,
Yeah, and so that's why I think she wanted to keep it a secret from him. And at a certain point, once she has kept it that secret, it's not trivial to just reveal, oh, by the way, I've been holding out on you all this time.
But the night before a battle where thousands of people are going to die.
Let her finish and then we'll pile on. You can go first, Chooch.
So, I'm not talking about the night before right now. I'm talking about there is precedent earlier in the season for her advocating her position, again, albeit without communicating all the information, but with a reason why she wasn't. Whether you can say that it's a justified reason or not, she had her reason. And she was keeping that secret, and she was telling him, it's not enough people, you don't understand what he's like, and him not listening to her. And so after this war council, was basically her waiting for the guys to go, to call him out personally, and just saying, you are going to lose this battle for us because you don't understand him and you won't listen to me. And he's just wanting to make it about, well, what's your alternative strategy? And she's not a tactical genius, so she can't give him some other answer. And I will also say that from a strategic point of view, it's not obvious that they would win if the Knights of the Vale just showed up. If they waited for the Knights of the Vale to show up, you know what Ramsay would have done? He would have turtled up inside Winterfell. He still had more people, and Ned had said previously that 100 men within Winterfell could defend it against thousands. True. They had enough supplies for years.
But it was overtaken multiple times by different people, wasn't it? It wasn't
only
just
by
Theon.
deception.
Yeah, all by trickery.
Deception.
Well, I mean, to fast forward to the end of the episode, all it took to open up Winterfell like a walnut was one giant pounding on the door. Why no battering rams? I know there's archers above, but I mean, I don't.
He had like 100 arrows in him.
So here's what I want to ask. Well, let's talk about one separately. But here's what I want to know, Christiana. As you argue Sansa's side, are you arguing because you think she is still good, like chaotic good, or chaotic manipulative neutral?
I am arguing that it's very complicated, and I'll get there.
Of course it is.
I'll get there, but I've not finished my various points yet. So again, I'll reiterate that I think it was the wrong decision for her to not tell John about the possibility of Knights from the Vale. But even after writing him, she doesn't know that they're going to show up. She doesn't know when they're going to show up. She is begging John to wait. She could have told him, but also doesn't want to. She's probably embarrassed by not having told him previously, and it's all very emotionally complicated for her. I'm not justifying that as being a good strategic decision. I'm saying that I understand it from her character's point of view, that she is begging John to wait, to not attack. She's telling him, you don't understand this. She's doing everything she can short of telling him this one thing. And again, should she have told him that one thing? I think so, but it's not black and white, because first of all, even if the Knights of the Vale did show up, if Jon waited, it would have just become a siege. The Knights of the Vale wouldn't really be able to accomplish much. They run the possibility of another storm coming through, just like what happened to Stannis. And it's not obvious that they would win in a straight-up fight anyway. I don't necessarily think this was Sansa's plan, but ultimately, the Knights of the Vale showing up when they did, although it resulted in in devastating losses to the Wildling army, was probably actually the best way to actually defeat Ramsay's army, because you drew them out and then cut them off from Winterfell. And again, I would suspect that what was more likely there is not that Sansa planned it that way and then wanted to ride in as a hero, but that desperate to do something when Jon wouldn't listen to her, she rode off to try to meet up with Littlefinger, who I guess she probably maybe had word, and to try to get him to show up as soon as possible. And maybe he delayed, or maybe they just couldn't get there in time until they did. But she brought them in. And so the problem is she was begging Jon to wait. She didn't tell him everything, and that's not cool. But it's not like she just didn't say anything. And again, I'm not defending her not telling Jon that one piece of information, but I would also argue that it's not obvious that her telling him that information would have changed anything.
True. Well, and especially saying on one side of the coin she doesn't know tactics, all that. So the other side of the coin is she wouldn't know it would turn into a siege. Why all Jon has been asking for or seeking is more men, more men. Okay, there may be more men coming. So, she doesn't know the tactics, so she doesn't know it's going to turn into a siege. And I don't know. It is such an important piece of information that I need something more to justify keeping it back to me. That's not just a character flaw. It's a flaw in the writing or flaw in something. It just doesn't feel right at all. To me, I think it's a bullshit moment that I don't buy the explanation. I mean, I buy that isn't an explanation. But something so vital,
remember what Littlefinger did to her when
Where'd Nutty go?
they last spoke. She said BRB, I'm not sure. Yeah. But remember,
so I want to get her points too.
When Littlefinger and Sansa last spoke, he got in her head, obviously, about whether or not she could actually trust her brother to serve her interests instead of his own. I think that she, for better or for worse, felt that she needed to keep something in reserve. And I'm not necessarily defending it, but I would honestly argue that if we want to discuss whose decision led to the most devastation and the most loss of life as a result, Jon's emotional charge after Rickon was far worse than what she did.
It's a what if. We'll never know because she never gave the information, and he did ask, where should we get more troops? What do you suggest? He asked her point blank, and she didn't say anything. And for whatever reason, it doesn't matter. She didn't say anything, and things played out, and it may not have made a difference in the head count, but we'll never know. It's
They had a plan that was based on, we have less people than them, we're less well-equipped than them, and our entire battle strategy hinges on getting them to charge us. That is everything that they discussed at the War Council. Their only shot was a bad shot, and it was that. And he ruined even that plan.
Well, since we don't have Nutty, Chooch, did you want to say anything before we read the comments from the chat?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to hold off on the a couple of them because we haven't heard from. Oh, Nutty, there you are. So, was there anything else that you wanted to say about that before we move on to comments
I
from the
think
Q&A?
Christiana made a lot of valid points. I'm not sure if you guys covered this, but I think that they could not have done a siege if Ramsay had his full army. He only had like a handful of guys, and that's why one was able to get in, and they only had one door down instead of the outer door and all the other stuff. But I think that there's a lot of valid points, and I don't know why Sansa did what she did. So, those points could definitely be part of why she did. But in my first viewing, those were my thoughts, and we'll only get to find out what happens by watching more. So, comments?
You're going to read comments, the Q&A?
Okay, I will go ahead and read them. Paulette says, I saw a clip today on the production of this episode. That shot of John facing the cavalry charge was not CGI. Kit actually stood there unsheathing his sword as 80 horses charged towards him. Kudos to the production. Absolutely. I mean, that was my least favorite of the two battles that we had, but it reminded me of the World War Z zombies, if you guys know what I mean. I never saw the movie because the commercials scared the shit out of me. But, it was just the piles of bodies and things like that. They definitely, I mean, it was some of the most beautiful landscapes that we've seen so far this season, I felt, with Winterfell and all of the other aspects. Before I move on, did we want to talk about Davos and his little moment right before the battle? Where he
we can do it after the battle.
Yeah, we'll get back to that.
Okay. I don't know how to dismiss these after I read them, so I'm gonna let somebody else figure that out. Matt says, Sheriff Bullock says, not saying things seems to be a Stark trait. I totally agree with that. Jennifer Fuss says, and I'm probably reading these in reverse order because I haven't read them before. In regards of a siege, isn't some part of Winterfell badly damaged where they, as Stark children, could have snuck in? And that's a really interesting point because they would have known a lot of the little hidden passageways. I don't know that Ramsay wouldn't have found those and filled them in the time, especially since Roose was there at the beginning. What do you think, Chooch?
Well, I had the thought of that would be a different way to go, would be some secret tunnels or something like that, and they obviously decided not to go that way, and I guess it makes sense because there were a lot of old-time people that had lived there a long time that were just part of the house, so he probably would have tortured and got anything out of them.
That's true, and we don't know, and that's who my first guess was, burning on those flaming flayed man cross things, X's. I don't know what they're called. I'm sorry. I'm lucky to not know that kind of terminology in my life. Let's see. Jennifer Fuss earlier said that the Knights of the Vale were apparently just around the corner as Sansa was leading them. Plus, they could have scissored them more effectively if she'd spoken up. In regards of the siege, oh nope, I read that one. Matt, Sheriff Bullock, says, oh, he's like me. He says he's very cross with Sansa. She withheld information that could have impacted the result of the battle. She suggested Jon wait to attack, but offered nothing else. If she had provided that intel, it's possible hundreds of their men would have lived. And then he says, ooh, it's getting testy up in here. She risked Jon's life too. Now, I don't know about this theory. There's a theory online she's making a power play to rule Winterfell and the North, which does not sit well with me. I want her to be strong but not evil. I totally agree with that. I can't wait to see.
Now, I would buy it if she turned.
Yeah.
I mean, she was under Cersei's wing for a minute there. Let's not forget that.
Now, I have a little bit more defense in the sense of saying, again, not saying that it was good that she didn't tell him, because I have said repeatedly over the course of the season, I thought she should tell him. But given that she had decided, for reasons of her own, that she could not share that information with him, perhaps because she felt he wasn't willing to listen to what she had to say on things, and he had demonstrated that more than once, is that something that was so that she was so emotional about, maybe she didn't feel like she could trust him with that information. And again, as far as making a power play, I don't think it's some scheming, cold manipulation, but I suspect that she is not sure whether or not she can trust John, as far as, I'm not saying he would betray her.
Right.
I'm saying that he would continue to not listen to her and what she has to say.
I'm
that he would
agreeing with
decide to
you.
take over Winterfell and not listen to anything she says.
I'm agreeing with you by it wholeheartedly, and I can't remember what I was going to agree with you with, but I agree with you, and I have forgotten why.
I think that with Rickon dead, from the three
Are we saying
Starks
that
we
now?
know about, that Sansa has the biggest claim to be Warden of the North. But one thing I'm curious about, so they know that he's got that Ramsay had Rickon, but no one said, "Hey, where's Bran?" Because last they knew, Rickon and Bran were together.
Right.
Nobody's saying, "Wait, where's Bran?"
Yeah.
You're right.
Because as it is now, Bran has the strongest claim.
Yeah. If he shows up, but
Can I ask a question about that I'm not clear on from the show, but I remember from the books? Does John know that Sam saw Bran?
Yeah, he does not know that Sam saw Bran. He knows that Bran and Rickon are alive because Theon told Sansa that.
But he doesn't know that they've split up at all.
Exactly.
I wonder if Sansa has news of that.
She
Because
has
otherwise,
no news.
how would they not ask about Bran, too?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, the last information they had was from Theon, and they found Rickon, and nobody said, "Hey, wait, where's Bran?"
Well, the problem is the only information the only way they know that Rickon is alive is because Ramsay said so.
Yeah.
They weren't even sure whether to believe it or not until Ramsay produced Shaggy Dog's head. So they weren't sure if it was even true. It might have been made up. And from that point on, okay, they have Rickon, that he may not have any idea where Bran is.
Yeah.
Bran might be dead. We don't know. We don't have any background, and so I feel like they just didn't cover it.
Yeah.
I agree, though, that it does stand to reason. It's an open question from their point of view of where is Bran.
Yeah.
But I think Ramsay was not going to be forthcoming in his feelings on that matter, and they had no other person to ask.
Yeah.
But the one last thing that I'll say as far as the battle, think about the timing of when they show up. Okay? We know that it was only after most of the Wildling army was devastated and it was looking dire. But that's only because Jon started the attack early.
Totally.
And forced everyone to charge instead of following the original plan.
Yep.
If Jon had followed the original plan that he discussed when Sansa last spoke with him, they would have arrived just in time to stop the battle from happening.
That was one of my favorite little pictures that I snapped of the screen was, Tormund, fucking Tormund said, "Don't." And he did it anyway. I mean, when Tormund is even apprehensive about running into battle, it's a bad idea because he just loves that shit.
So I feel like
they're going into battle and she knows he's coming.
But the point is, in my opinion, yes, we can question the idea, what if she had told him? I don't know that he would have listened to her. He might have felt like, we don't need him. We're going to attack anyway. We don't want to deal with him. Or it could have also been like, it's a what if. We don't know what if she told him. It's not a given that things would have worked out better. Because again, as I said, if the Knights of the Vale, if they waited until they showed up, and then Ramsay came out and saw that whole army, he would say, nope, not doing that, siege time.
Yeah.
And that could have just led to, Jon and company getting buried in snow, loss.
Right.
And so if Jon had stuck to the plan, the Knights of the Vale would have arrived just in time to just totally cut apart Ramsay's army without the massive loss of life. That loss of life is on Jon, not Sansa.
Okay, moving on since we disagree. Should we talk more about the battle itself, or do we want to talk about the aftermath
Uh,
with the
Battle.
well,
dogs?
two things on the battle. One is the sequence. There's like a steady cam behind following John. That
Right.
was awesome.
That
He's
was really
going
great.
through, and there's horses going, and you got one pulling a Mongo, and yeah, that was really cool.
I think that this battle is the battle that we've been waiting for the entire series. And we saw some real numbers finally and some real action, and it was fantastic. And then it went so far as to get uncomfortable. You know, there were so many, and you know, like as the bodies are piling up, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only one that is thinking to like the Civil War and the Revolutionary War and stuff, and how those
Yes.
battlefields were, and
Right.
and John just getting lost, and the pacing of it, how, you know, starts to attack one person and then somebody comes from another side and then another side and then another side, so you're never actually fighting one person. It's
Right.
just constant chaos. And then there's that whole bit of well, and then the encircling thing, like that brings about like Roman fighting and the Spartans and all of their different techniques, and so that was really kind of cool. Like I feel like they used lots of different influences from historical battles from many different times
Right.
to stage this fight, which was fantastic. And the bit where John's getting trampled, I was feeling out of breath. I was very
Claustrophobic.
anxious. I was
Yeah.
claustrophobic. And I feel like they wrote the episode to make us expect that John was going to die again.
Yes, I was sure of it at one moment.
Talking about it. They kept talking about it. And, you know, it was like, all right, John's going to get a good death then. No.
Well, I mean, we just lost Rick on having John go down in a pile of bodies and blood. It's not off the table with Sansa smirking next to Baelish.
And I
I'm
seriously
sorry.
thought Tormund was gone
Did
for a
that come
minute.
off nasty?
I thought
And
Yeah.
what?
Tormund
Oh
was
my
gone.
God.
And I was just thinking, but no, he has to see Brienne again. There's
thought it
so
was-
many good things.
I
I
thought it
thought
was
that
ironic.
the-
I'm sorry. Please go.
Well, I was going to say the mini wall of bodies and the trash compactor looked really cool, and cinematically it was really cool. That was one of the things I thought was total bullshit, though, because as you say, there's so much chaos, so many bodies, so many people going left and right from every direction, that there's going to be a wall of bodies that is suddenly perfectly. I don't know. I thought that it looked really cool, and I really liked it, and I liked. You know, I enjoyed that part of the episode, but I just it was just too fantastical for me. Go, you know, crazy in a world with magic.
See, I bought it because of all the different historical battle stuff that I've seen, like having seen stuff like that happen.
Well, you know, my thought on the wall of bodies, this was just something that, like, I don't know, my brain made a connection without it, without the show actually explaining it, but my brain just made an assumption to maybe adjusting reality in order to make that seem more plausible, which was that it was not flat ground there. There was some sort of a little mini ridge, and people kept getting killed as they came over the ridge. And so the wall of bodies was not bodies 10 feet deep. It was a natural formation on the ground that had a pile of bodies on top of it. But again, the show didn't tell us that. It didn't show that. So I think I didn't really have any
really
reason
cool.
to conclude that, other than that's what my brain told me was happening. So that was my assumption, but it might just be my brain trying to justify an implausible visual.
It looked cool and made Ramsey's strategy, you know, brilliant. It was
Yeah.
it certainly worked really well.
Viv, you had something else to say about this.
Or did you? Well, you asked if we were done with the battle before.
Well, I don't remember.
Sorry.
One other biggie for me is so Tormund gets his ass handed to him by Karstark. I mean,
Yeah.
he was on his way out, man.
Was that Karstark or Umber?
I think it was
Oh, yeah.
Karstark. It looked like I couldn't really tell because of all the grime and blood and stuff, but
So
That was my assumption in my notes. I don't know.
I love that. Yes, he almost did it, but my God, did he get it back as soon as that guy's attention was off of him? He struck, and he struck the final blows.
Yeah.
Delicious, tasty earlobes.
I think it was Umber because, if I recall, Karstark, the young Lord Karstark, is a slightly younger, more Weasley-looking guy that showed up sooner, and Umber was the big bearded guy who showed up saying, "I'm not going to bend the knee, but my proof that I'm with you is that I'm bringing you Rickon." And so I think, and that was Umber. So I think that was the guy that Tormund was fighting.
It 100% was Umber because of the banner.
Oh, okay.
In front of the Umber banner, so.
I didn't even see that.
Karstark is black with a white starburst on it, and Umber is the one that, if you're not paying attention, might look like a Confederate flag, but is a red field with a X chain on it.
Okay. It's kind of similar to the Bolton one, right?
A little bit, except like kind of like reverse. It's got the whole X theme going to it. I only remembered the banners because I was watching it and I was like, wait, what? Oh yeah, that is the right banner.
I thought that it was kind of sad that the thing that triggered like the stampede that buried John, because I watched it 4 times and I took pictures 3 times to try and figure out exactly when it was. And it was like when Tormund turned around and said, "Fuck this," and then they all start running and somebody says, "We're going home." And that's when John got buried. And it was like, I don't think my heart could have taken it if Tormund's "fuck this" could have triggered John's death. Because, I mean, I have just taken that option off the table. They're buddies, they're down, they're ride or die, but I mean, that scene was very, very difficult, and that's one of the reasons. It was the reason I like this fight scene less than the one that started the episode is it was so choppy, and like I said, World War Z and like all of the violent, blood splattery stuff. And I'm more of a fantasy, dragons throwing fire, blowing away from a distance kind of a gal. I think it's between the two styles of battle, but I do think it was. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last, but I do think it was interesting that they managed to do what I think. I mean, obviously, maybe not obviously, but in my opinion, it's bigger than the Battle of Blackwater was by leaps and bounds. I think that I don't know if I could decide right now which one I think is the biggest battle or the more important battle or whatever, but like the fact that both of them were the most powerful battle scenes that we've had, and it was representing both ice in Winterfell and fire in Marine with the dragons and all of that. And they even brought a little fire into Winterfell, or at the beginning of Marine with the lit catapult ball things, and it was like, I think the only fire that we got in Winterfell was the crosses that Ramsay burned. I don't think there was anything else, but it seemed like distinctly ice and fire, and I really kind of liked that for the Battle of the Bastards episode.
So Paulette has a comment about the Wall of Bodies. She says, actually, when viewed from a distance, the Wall of Bodies was in an arc that matched the Bolton archers' firing distance. Also, Ramsay had them fire into their own cavalry.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. Like, so at the beginning, when John says, "So your men are gonna know that you wouldn't fight for them," the nonsense that Ramsay pulled with Rickon, just violating any idea of hostage terms and things of that nature, and all other wartime conventions, and then firing into your own people. I kept waiting. Like, at what point did the Karstarks and the Umbers and the other men that are with Ramsay stop and say, "Wait a minute, is this what we signed up for? I thought we were fighting wildlings. I didn't think we were with the wildlings," And I don't know. It's
so Ramsay, though, if you think about it, because he demanded
Ramsay.
utter control over his wife, utter control over Theon, utter control over his dogs and his girlfriend and everything else. And I think it almost kind of makes sense in a weird way.
I think the actions of Ramsay make perfect sense for Ramsay. I just kept waiting for like his followers to say, "Enough with this shit."
Yeah,
were gonna say,
nobody
I
seemed
think
to even blink at it.
I agree. I
Although
agree.
it
It's
could have just
totally
happened
fucked
too
up.
fast.
And I think that's what part of it was. I think it happened really fast, and I think that they didn't have time to think about it. And Ramsey does not questioning. He doesn't say, "Would you?" He says, "Do it," and he triggers these knee-jerk responses. And it was, I don't know if we want to move on to the scene in the kennels or not, or any other scenes while we're still in Winterfell, or or if we have more to talk about with the actual battle, which was executed wonderfully, but really disgusting to watch.
Yeah.
And here, chop chop, slice slice, gurgle gurgle.
Right. So we lose 1-1,
hmm
which
Mm,
I
Extra
get.
sad because, as far as we know, he is the last living giant.
Yeah.
yeah,
exactly. But beautiful that he spent his life. Ironic even. I mean, can you imagine what Ned Stark would have thought had he known that a giant would be bursting down his gate to let his children in and to save the day? It was such a beautiful way for him to go out, and I think that part of him just ran towards battle, and I think part of him knew that, oh, this is more arrows than I normally run around in a battle with, so I'm probably not going to get up.
hmm
It seemed like, come on, we're going. Let's do this. Let's do this before I fall for the last time. It was really
Yeah.
cool, I think.
he was awesome, and I loved him throughout the entire episode. I've loved every scene that 1-1 has been on my screen.
Yeah.
And again, it's another one of those things. Like, at one point, when you see a big giant take your buddy and snap him into pieces, do you not go, fuck this, I'm going home?
Hey, nobody's saying Tormund wasn't right in saying that and running away, but
Yeah, I mean,
he was
the
seeing it was he said at the beginning, he said, we've never seen them fight and they've never seen us fight. Of course there's hope. And then when he saw what he was up against, I can't blame him for I mean, at some point everybody turns. Ramsay certainly did, and he had armies in front of he had the army, well,
Mhm.
he had a few guys left in front of him.
yeah.
And then he locked his entire army out of Winterfell too. German.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, he was, yeah, he never cared about anyone but himself. I mean, it was obvious. I mean, I think with 1-1, I mean, what's kind of just extra, I mean, the fact that he was really, the last living giant, certainly the last one south of the wall, and not obvious that anyone would survive long north of the wall, there might have been an aspect for him where, like, yeah, he's willing to fight and do whatever it takes because really, what else has he got?
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that it's not like suicide. It was more just like willing to make the most of and like anything that he can do with the rest of his life, and so he's going to do everything he can to have the rest of his life have some meaning instead of just kind of being alone until he dies.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to live that life, and his life is going to mean something.
Yeah. And, I mean, and I think it's certainly true that even once Ramsay got inside, like with the Knights of the Vale there doing mop-up, I think everyone else would have managed to get in, but certainly there would have been much more death without 1-1's contribution, and that death may well have included, Jon and Tormund, because they're the ones that were right there at the gate.
Yeah.
Would have been getting peppered with those arrows that 1-1 was taking for them.
Yeah. And Ramsay does opt for the one-on-one combat.
Well, now that there's not any
Kind of.
But he kept drawing arrows as he said it too. Let's not forget that. Yeah, I've reconsidered as he's pulling out another arrow and knocking it. Knocking it, notching it, whatever.
Jon gives him the beat down that he so royally deserved and saves him for Sansa.
Well, and
I thought it was pretty obvious where it was going to go from there, and I was pretty satisfied.
I was well, so first let me just briefly point out that I felt like him being able to pull away from making Ramsay's death about himself was nice, and it was a callback to how Sansa had called him on that previously. So I liked that, and I felt like that was an acknowledgement that he had at least taken that somewhat to heart, especially now that her showing up with the Knights of the Vale, whether she had told him about it previously or not, saved all of their lives. So there's that.
Everybody that was still alive.
Yeah, their lives.
Would have been lots more people alive if John hadn't rushed early. So anyway.
And if Sansa had told John.
Moving on, people, come on.
Go ahead.
The point is that I liked that he was able to recognize that. Because the thing is, I honestly, if John had just killed Ramsay there, I would have been really kind of pissed.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so I was really happy with how, and honestly, when we didn't see him die though, like when Sansa didn't come up and kill him or something, I was terrified that they were going to try to keep him alive as a hostage, and I was like, no, don't do that, don't do that.
I never really had that thought because of the way that Sansa was looking at him and the way he looked at her. It was so feral to me that it was almost like they had reverted into that wolf form, and she was like looking at him like, don't you fucking do it, and he was like, oh right, yeah, sorry, here, this is for you. I got him for you. He's all yours, kind of. It was so primal and it was so instinctive, and it was, I mean, we could do it on a what if, but I don't think that there's a better way for Ramsay to go out. I really, really don't. I think we can all agree that that was a moment of absolute beautiful execution. Very disturbing how long she watched and turned back to watch again. How much did Ramsay rub off on her and all that, but that is just about the best rape revenge I think I've ever seen on screen.
I thought that she was going to just stab him and kill him right then and there, and when the scene cut, I kind of had the same thing as Christiana. I was like, don't you let this bastard live. Do not let him live. And then when the hound thing happened, all I could think is, for Walda. For Walda and their little kid, and yeah, I definitely think that the darkness is seeping into Sansa. The stop, look, a little bit of a smile, but no, it was exactly what I think most viewers wanted to see.
Yeah, I read one account that was trying to say that it was a dumb thing for them to kill him instead of keeping him as a hostage, but I was thinking
he's a bastard.
Well, technically not.
Yeah.
He was officially legitimized by the king.
But are there any Boltons left?
No. Well, so
he would be the Bolton.
See, that's my point though, is that their argument was, technically speaking, from an official standpoint, according to the King Tommen of the Seven Kingdoms, Ramsay Bolton is Lord Bolton, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North.
Roose was,
and Ramsay inherited it when Roose died.
And Ramsay was named.
I don't think we got a Raven on that. Okay. But I agree. I totally agree. I concede.
You are making my point before I make it, when I'm just trying to explain the point that I was trying to refute.
Sorry.
No, it means that we are in agreement. But it just meant that you were jumping in to correct the person I was correcting before I could finish explaining what they said.
That sounds like me, huh, Chooch?
Timing.
Yeah. So I think that I thought his death was more satisfying from a TV show perspective than I could have imagined it.
Amen.
I had given some thought to how could they actually end up taking him out in a way that would be satisfying, and this was better than anything I came up with. I honestly wasn't too worried about Sansa either in terms of the darkness rubbing off on her. I don't mean to say it dismissively like that, but what I didn't feel like her taking satisfaction in the karmic justice of what is happening meant that she is dark inside.
Nope. It does not.
Because going out that specific way he killed himself through his need to be as cruel as possible in unnecessary ways.
At every possibility, every possible avenue.
Yeah.
It made no sense.
He did it to himself. As he says, "Oh, my hounds would never hurt me," and she's like, "But you didn't feed them."
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, see?
Right.
You
said
would
so
have been
yourself.
fine, except just one more example of how you had to be as cruel as possible, and that's why they're going to kill you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That you
What was
said
that,
so
Chooch?
yourself. You didn't feed him for 7 days, although she had already left when he said it, so she didn't know that he had said so himself.
Yeah. Well, you
we
know the
forgive
magic
that.
of. She and
yeah,
John talked about that. They just didn't talk about. Never mind. What were you going to say, Chooch?
No, the only other thing that I had hoped, I loved his death other than she should have carved off a doggy treat
Oh,
with his paw
Yeah.
before. Like, that could have tossed it to the dogs and given them a taste, and then they come and eat it. But no, they did
Right?
that great.
I
I just wanted to see
was
him
so
experience even more
scary.
pain.
That was totally fan candy. I don't think that there's even a rapist alive that didn't want that scene to happen.
So we technically didn't see a dead body,
Oh gosh.
but no. I know he's not.
Huge.
So in
We
response,
saw his jaw get ripped off. Couldn't
didn't
even
see
yell
it, no.
anymore. We didn't see. We saw their dog. It was right here. Okay, so
Nutty?
I'm going to take this moment to read. I'm sorry, Nutty. What were you going to say?
in response to anybody that says that Ramsey should have been kept alive as a hostage, no, this is exactly the kind of person you kill because you risk
Yes.
them surviving
Yeah.
far outweighs anything else. And there are so many times that he could have been killed and was not killed. This is one of the few times that they just got to die.
Well, and not only that, but honestly, at this point, who else gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like
Nobody.
You think those folks down at King's Landing care at all?
Nope.
The Freys are probably the only ones that would care even a little bit, only because it doesn't look good for them.
Mm-mm.
Well, and they might want to kill him themselves because of what they did to what he did to Walda.
No, that's true. Although they may not know that, because that was kind of like a dropped ball. We didn't, we talked about the idea of would he be able to hide what he did, but that never came up again.
Yeah. So I'm going to real quick
like
read.
They saw through his father's death, so
Right. Yeah, that was not going to be anything that they could hide, not with the stab wounds. I'm going to go ahead and read Sheriff Bullock. It looks like signed off, but he made a comment regarding the dog scene. And which is grosser, dogs eating Ramsey's face or redacted on Hannibal, cutting pieces off his own face and feeding his own face to dogs? I think the latter. Also, I can't believe this is television now. What a time to be alive.
Hannibal is network television.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
It's CBS, I think.
It's a horror.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Paulette says, I loved the lines, and I do too. I mean, I just had to go back and get perfect shots of these lines on closed captioning. Your name will disappear. Your family will disappear. All memory of you will disappear. And then the dogs start growling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're only going to remember him if she says stories about him.
Mm-hmm.
Most everybody else did.
Kind of like the ending of Pan's Labyrinth, actually.
Right. Yeah. Oh.
All right.
So they're going to bury Rick in the crypt because apparently we're not burning anything anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Nobody
thing.
seems to be concerned with that.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Oh.
It's so far south from the wall. Is that something we have to worry about?
Well, we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, and they don't know either, but they've seen what's on the north side of the wall, so I think they have every precaution they could.
Well, it's also possible too that I'm not sure how thorough their corpse burning procedures are. You could potentially still do funeral pyre and then remains go into the crypt, but I don't know.
That's true.
So another thing that I kept thinking when I was thinking that John was going to die, I kept expecting him to get like a mortal wound and it not affect him.
Yeah.
that didn't happen.
Where was Ghost though? They didn't show him at all this episode.
Yeah,
did they?
that was. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, didn't he sacrifice himself? Didn't he?
No,
Oh,
that was
that
Summer.
Never mind.
Or-
Yeah, that was
yeah.
Summer. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I think it was just like we're already
Too many
spending a lot of
elements.
money. Yeah.
I mean, and if we were to talk about what they spent on the episode, the huge amount that they spent on the Battle in the North doesn't even touch what they spent on the Battle in Marine.
I don't know.
Heard that's why they can only have half seasons now. No.
I mean,
They
we
were
had
both very expensive for sure.
for sure, but I mean, just the 3 dragons flying and all those images I've waited for since reading book 1.
Yeah. Well, that's all CGI though. I mean, I think
I know.
that
I know.
But what I'm saying is that the battle sequence in the North, requiring all of those people and horses and extras and stuff like that, probably was actually more expensive in terms of production. But they're very elaborate, both sequences for sure.
Yeah.
Amazing visuals
So we
on
want to talk a
both.
little bit about Davos going for his constitutional, and he finds the stag.
Like I don't know if I have that much to say about it because we have no payoff yet.
Yeah.
You know,
We just know, yeah.
I thought because, of course, seeing Melisandre up there on the ramparts as they changed the banners was like the fulfillment of her vision.
Yeah.
I thought what they were going to do is basically have him show up and throw her off the wall or something like that right after that. So basically the last thing she saw herself doing, that was it. But then, of course, nothing happened. And so now I feel like, I don't know.
yeah.
It was another moment of absolutely stunning visuals in this episode that I had to back up and take a picture of when they showed the sun rising behind him and then the distant shot of him looking down on the funeral pyre where Shireen was burned, which is what we're talking about. I don't think we've actually said the full nouns. We just kind of started talking about it, Davos. But, you know, he knows that it's where Shireen was. Obviously, it's the stag that he carved for her. And I think it was probably the most perfect and beautiful tribute that the only person that stood over her grave and mourned from what we've seen from Stannis and her mother, you know, before she hung herself, having Davos, the visual was just so powerful of him had been realizing this is where that precious little girl had died and why, and he knew that it led to nothing. Stannis ended up losing and dying. It was just immensely powerful, just that one image, and it's just the kind of thing that I could see them taking the TV show and taking some of these images that are so like multifaceted and rich and turning just it into a graphic novel just from photo stills, you know. But that's just me. I'm crazy about visuals.
So I think it also shows us what kind of a guy Davos is. The fact that he was able to continue a battle, a possibly losing battle, without acting on like revenge or emotions for that. I'm sure we're going to get the payoff next episode, but it just goes to show what kind of a guy Davos is. And just a little hint for the future, I have put into our what if question bucket, what if Stannis never followed the Red Woman? What if he never had her influence?
That was actually in there from, I think, season 3 was, I think, when we first added that one to the list. Yes. I'm very excited to talk about that one. That'll be a fun discussion because there's just so many places to go.
True that. Are we done with the West, or with the North, I should say, with Westeros? Over to Marine. The great Master's siege is going apace. I think, well, the only thing that it didn't really bug me, the only minor annoyance was, okay, so they needed to have this conversation, Tyrion and Dany needed to have this conversation, but couldn't she have gone and fight a couple ships and then checked in at the balcony? Like, the whole time they're talking and the city's just getting pummeled and pummeled and pummeled.
I can
But
see
no.
that, but I feel like you have to talk strategy before you just attack.
Yeah, this is a woman. This isn't Jon Snow running with his sword across the field. This is a queen, my friend. No, I think it showed a lot of restraint on her part.
I
Okay.
loved that initial exchange between
Mhm.
Tyrion and Dany where he's doing a couple of different things, the nice layers in there, because on the one hand there is, oh no, mom's home and she's mad and I have to explain what happened. But then there's also the element of they're just attacking us because they're jealous. And then there's also the layer where he's actually right in the sense that the success of the city, like it being successful is like this isn't a frustrating element of the season at large that they didn't develop this story very well. But I believe that the intent of the season is to indicate that Tyrion is right in his assessment there, which is he made a deal with the Masters and they agreed because they thought that Meereen was going to collapse into chaos without slavery. And then when it started to thrive instead, they said, whoops, can't let that happen.
Yeah.
And so that's why they attacked. And so I believe that he was right. And so I loved that Dany basically listens to all this explanation. She's not happy about the attack, but she also knows what it was like before. And he basically says, we were thriving, and that's why they are attacking us now. And she's like, okay, good. What are we doing about it?
Mhm.
And I just thought that was great.
Well,
Yeah.
and I like that we see that, okay, so she's got a plan of what she's going to do. And he's like, can we try just a slight change on that?
Mhm.
Just a different approach. And you can see that, her bloodlust and her fighting matched with his strategy actually works. And I mean, it's not explicitly said, but I mean, what they ended up doing was not Dany's full plan. It was
Right.
Dany's plan with Tyrion's strategy, and this is how it works.
He just showed why he's one of the best suited for ruling in some capacity, even if it's only ever as the hand, because
Yep.
he was able to say to her in a kind of insulting way about her father, and he got her attention with it. And there aren't many people that are that adept with their vocabularies that they could have pulled that off, because she was already pissed.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did he get her attention on it, she listened to his advice, and then a fucking cannon came through the wall, and she still kept her shit together. So I mean, I think it just goes to show how all of his experience and wisdom in dealing with crazy fucking rulers is really paying off right now, not just for himself and for Meereen, but also for Dany and hopefully for Westeros later.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that scene probably gave him some pause. But for now, she's able to be steered towards more good than more evil.
I'll also just point out that he brought up again all of the wildfire buried underneath King's Landing. We've been reminded about that like 3 or 4 times this season, that all that stuff is there. I can't help but think that's what Cersei and Qyburn were talking about.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see some wildfire get lit up.
Are you
next
saying
episode.
this is Chekhov's wildfire?
I think I am. Yeah.
They're definitely hinting at that kind of a thing. But I have something that I wanted to add to the What If show that you guys know that I didn't read past book 4. I never got to read the graphic novels. I haven't read World of Ice and Fire. Other than Chooch, I am the least knowledgeable person on here about the actual books. I mean, I've read the first 4 like multiple times, but so what I'm starting to wonder is with the constant mentions of the wildfire beneath the castle, and it looks like we're going to hopefully find out next episode. They won't drag it on till next season. We'll find out why that is still being so brought up to our minds. But one thing I want to propose for the What If episodes is, what if Mad King Eris wasn't crazy? What if he thought he knew? Because let's remember who has been at the wall was, Master Aemon. So he would have known what, allegedly, he would have known. I mean, I don't know when he got through the wall because this is so long ago and my math is probably way off because their birth math just confuses me anyways. But it seems to me like it's something that would be an interesting discussion to say, what if Eris knew about the long night coming, didn't know how far it was off, and didn't want his citizens to become, the Walking Dead kind of a thing.
Well,
Just throwing that out there.
I'm not sure that's a what if because we don't know that that's not actually the case yet. I think that's a big theory that we've discussed before.
Yeah,
that could be the
I don't
truth.
I don't remember the discussion. I'll shut up then.
Well, maybe you had ducked out or something. But when we had the episode about where Bran was having his flashbacks, and especially once we realized that he is able to actually influence the past, even if it's only in sort of making the past we already know about come to be. And it could be that Bran attempting to warn people about the Night King and so on inadvertently is what
triggers him.
Eris to be hearing "burn them all, burn them all."
Oh my god! Now I want to see it even more.
Yeah, I'm honestly.
I thought I was just full of shit, but now I feel way better.
I half expect that to be what happens in the upcoming episode. I feel like things have been building to that because I think in the finale we need payoff on a number of things. We need payoff on Brandon and his visions and what they're doing now. What's their plan? Where are they going? We need payoff, obviously, on the trial. And we know that Cersei's got some wildfire up her sleeve. And then I doubt we're going to get any payoff on Dorne, although that was bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like instead of them getting a raven that says, "Oh, turns out Prince Doran is dead," it should have just been, "And then Doran fell into the ocean and was never heard from again."
I was going to ask you guys if I was just being forgetful, because it's been 3 episodes ago that we last saw.
It was the first episode, or no, the second, I think, that
is when they did Slicey on Duran, right?
Yeah, I think that was episode 2 of the season. We've had nothing since.
I'm convinced that they've just nuked Dorne from orbit. That plot is gone.
Yeah. They decided it wasn't working and they didn't need it. It's gone. I agree. I think that's what's going on. Yeah. But so I think, for
pretty mainly British and European cast, that sounds pretty American. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that.
Well, so in any case,
the creators aren't British, by the way. They're American.
That's true.
I think Arya, we maybe don't necessarily need to see again. I mean, I would like to. I'm just saying that I feel like we don't need any additional resolution. Her last moment that we got was her announcing her intentions for her next arc.
And now we know Winterfell would be safe for her to return to, so we can leave this season on hope. Let's hope they don't fuck with it.
We need at least one more story beat for Brienne, for the Hound, for Sam, and then of course the major story resolution for the trial in King's Landing and what's up with Bran. I feel like that's what we're going to have to see. Well, I said Brienne, but
I thought you said Bran. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So I was saying Brienne and the Hound, I think we need at least a little bit more from each of them, but not necessarily a lot. I think we just need sort of a set piece of what's up with them, where are they going now? But Bran, we need a lot, and I think we need not just payoff on what's his plan, where's he going now, but also resolution of those damn teasing flashbacks we got.
Yeah.
So, do we want to talk a little more about Marine and the battle there?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
On a tangent.
So, that parlay again. The masters
another parlay.
dig and dig and dig themselves deeper into a hole. I think everybody, or at least I was pretty sure how it was going to go, and it was fucking glorious.
It was wonderful. I wasn't kidding when I said I've been dreaming of Danny on a dragon's back, like saving the day since book 1 before the damn eggs even hatched.
Yeah.
As soon as they
It
were
was
in her
just-
hands, I was like, oh, babies that'll grow.
Yeah,
She
all
can
the
burn up
beats-
her brother.
All the beats were perfect, even just leading up to it. I think there was a mistake in translation.
That's what I wanted to comment on. Again, we get a whole thing. It's like, no. Your surrender, not my surrender.
It was just a thing of beauty. Oh my God!
Yeah.
Every pause. I mean, I thought it was just masterful. It was like
Letting
where I think that they really shined.
Yeah,
I
letting
saw
them talk until they dug themselves the grave. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Christiana.
I saw a great meme that showed Greywind standing in front of them saying, "One must die," and then the second picture is him doing his double slice, and then it says, "I make joke."
That's awesome.
I thought that was such a cool thing though, because as soon as one of them talked and the other one started, yeah, him. It was like he gave Grey Worm the signal, like, yeah, we knew this was going to happen. Just do what we planned. It was awesome.
Yeah. He was the newbie. He was the one who was the one who had bought Tyrion and Jorah, right? So
Well, and he was
of
also,
course
I
they're
think,
gonna point to him.
and he was very outspoken. He was the one that made the quote demands. He was the one that I least expected to survive because he's the one said that this is going to happen to your Unsullied. This is what's going to happen to Missandei. This is what's going to happen to you, and we're going to butcher your dragons. And he's the one that lived at the end of it. Yes, it was. I took pictures.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
But I loved that they made what I thought was the counterintuitive choice, which is with the dragon attack. My first thought is that you have the dragons going and just swooping down and just spraying fire all over everything, but they didn't. They did it to one ship and destroyed it utterly, demonstrating to all those other ships, like, that's what happens when you fling fireballs in our city, so maybe you should cut it out. And now, Dany has a bunch of new ships.
Yep.
Plus, she gets some more in the next scene.
She does so love her ships.
Yeah.
And so we do find out definitively that the other two dragons were locked up the whole time. They were not in the countryside.
Capable of coming out when called, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
I was thinking
properly motivated.
So great.
So that's another thing that I wanted to ask you guys, and maybe you guys talked about it on one of the episodes that I wasn't on, but do you think that there is anything to the conversations online about being like a really similar to what Bran has connections when he's doing his green seeing and warging and stuff, that there's a connection between Dany and the dragons, because it seems like Drogon is acting in her best interest, whether it's what she wants or not. Because by him taking her initially from the fighting pits in Marine and flying off with her and leaving her in the mountains where the Dothraki would find her, ended up being, that was the linchpin. I mean, that was like their big, nobody knew that she was going to show up with. How many hordes of Dothraki were that? I was so excited. But I mean, it was a huge army led by Dario, and so we know that he's still there. We still don't know what's going on with Jorah. He's still trying to find a cure. But it was so wonderful to see that Dario was one of the ones coming forward to stop the Sons of the Harpy that were slaughtering people, just butchering them in the street.
Yeah.
So it was a really powerful, I thought, for me, a really powerful, I mean, I know that the dragons that were in the basement and everything probably heard, the dragons screeching like everybody else did, but do you think that there is something to the psychic connection thing like Bran has? Chooch, I want to ask Chooch first, though.
Okay.
And I think we may have talked about it a couple seasons ago. I have always gotten the feeling that there's a connection, but that she probably doesn't understand it exactly how it works. I don't believe the show has made any inkling that there is any connection whatsoever. But I have a feeling in my heart that there's a connection.
Yeah, they haven't done anything obvious at all, but they've done little things like she'll look over a hill and she'll see dust stirring, and then she'll go over there, and it's Drogon. And that's happened like a couple of times where it seems like he's there right when she needs him, even if she doesn't know to ask for him. And that's all that's really all I meant, kind of a thing.
Hmm. I'm kind of with Chooch in the sense that there's obviously a connection of some kind that is perhaps supernatural in nature, but it doesn't seem to me to be quite the same as what Bran is doing.
Yeah.
And this ties into my whole theory that her dragons are sort of agents of capital D destiny, as in they obey her more when she's doing what they want, so to speak, whatever, to the extent that there's some will controlling the magic around her. Yeah. What does that will want? Yeah. And they obey her more when she is following instructions, so to speak, when she is on her true path. Mm-hmm. But what does that mean? And I'm not sure that that's necessarily a benevolent thing, especially if we're talking about the Lord of Light. So who knows what's going on there, but there's some magical connection, I think, for sure. It seems different, though, from what Bran is doing, and it kind of makes sense that it might be, just since we sort of get the impression that whatever magic's going on with the children and the old gods in the Green Dream might actually be sort of in opposition to the Lord of Light, or is it? Hard to say.
I think that it's not warging. But it is something, and whether it's just, dragon husbandry kind of a connection or something more supernatural and tied into the fact that, she doesn't burn, or, something like that, and again, maybe I've been watching too much Voltron, but maybe there's certain types that can interact with dragons, which is why Tyrion was able to take their collars off without being flamed. I think that there's definitely something. And I'm still waiting for Bran to warg into a dragon, which is why I think it's very different than warging. Because I really think the moment Bran was able to warg into Hodor is the moment when I said he's going to warg into a dragon at some point. So that's my little hope there, that's going to happen.
Any other dragon and war shenanigans?
I did notice that the two dragons that were kept inside, they didn't seem that much smaller than Drogon.
They were really smaller, but not significantly, yeah. I don't think. I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
I don't think they were. Maybe they weren't separated as long as we feel like they were.
Yeah.
On the whole, air 3D's hard perspectives.
Yeah, we didn't really see them standing right next to each other or anything.
Well, no. I felt like they showed them a couple of scenes. They showed that they looked a little smaller, but it wasn't like the size of cats or even like they were bigger, I think, possibly than the last time we saw them.
I didn't think they were going to be the size of cats.
Yeah. No. I know that. No, I know, but it was the whole theory that the dragons will grow larger if they aren't enclosed, and so I've noticed it. Maybe I was wrong. A little different.
But I do want to say that, all of the dragon scenes were just awesome, and I was clapping, and I was happy throughout the entire thing. And
it was heaven.
Climbs up on him. Now, granted, I also think that the dragon scale changes depending on whether or not Daenerys is on his back or not. But that's okay. And I love how the neck moves and works. This dragon.
Yeah.
It was very neat.
Yeah.
It was all that I've been hoping for and more, so much more. It was absolutely beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm turning off my lights, so I'm turning off my camera.
Okay.
But let's see. I wanted to read a comment of Paulette's. I just want to say the surrender of Marine was one of my favorite scenes from the whole series. I agree with you completely. Then she continues, just that shot of the Masters saying, you obviously are having trouble grasping the new reality, when in background Drogon lazily circled was precious. I so agree. That was just so delicious. I tasted it on my tongue.
Mhm. So then we have Yara and Danny becoming fast friends. It was just conversation was almost too perfect.
Oh, the subtext.
I totally ship Yara and Daenerys.
Yes.
Although I have to say, like, it's one thing also, Tyrion pointing out the precedent of letting one of the Seven Kingdoms decide to not be one of the Seven Kingdoms anymore is potentially a dangerous precedent. But I also like that she just points out is like, well, this one is offering us something of real value in exchange. The others can make a similar offer if they like.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's not for free.
Yeah, and she didn't confirm that yes, this is what's going to happen. She said she asked.
Well, it's also a case of the other thing though that I'm almost like more worried about than that is this whole idea of and you're going to stop all the reaving and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Yara's like, you mean our whole way of life? It's like, not anymore. Oh, sure, that'll be easy. Although, I guess it's true, too, though, that technically they did stop after Robert's rebellion because they had Theon hostage.
Yep. True, and I think Yara is taking that, let's say, force of nature, force of will that Danny gave in that statement. While she's walking through the burning streets of Marine with dragons circling above, I think it's probably easy for her to understand that it's not going to happen under Danny's reign in Westeros anyways. She may as well agree to it now because Danny's not having it, and she showed that she can make that so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and to me, it's like Danny's like standing there. Look, I just ended slavery. I think I can end raping and pillaging.
I ended
slavery.
Danny's plan is that there's going to be a Seven Kingdoms once she gets there. There's going to be a kingdom. And this is how things are going to be, and how the world's going to run from now on.
Yep.
But my favorite bit was just I suppose your proposal is not coming with wedding. And Yara's just kind of like, I wasn't going to ask, but what? I'm really up for whatever.
I love that.
Because I was actually... sorry, go ahead.
No, please finish.
I was going to say I was discussing on Twitter with some people that wouldn't it... Well, this was actually before this episode. It was just when we knew that's where Yara and Theon were going. Was just like, let's have Yara and Danny go be co-queens, and this was before Varys had left, so it was also and then Theon will have Varys and Grey Worm as eunuch role models to help him get over his deal.
I remember you saying something about that. I remember the role model part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shipping them. I'm shipping them so hard. I would love for Yara to replace the handmaid.
You're shipping them?
Yeah. To ship.
What does that mean?
When you favor a relationship in fandom, it's called shipping them. So, I ship Brienne and Tormund.
Mm-hmm.
I ship Yara and Danny.
I ship Arya and Gendry. Still, damn it.
Exactly. I ship them too.
So the Iron Island delegates are pledged, and now they've got all the ships, so...
It was a fantastic scene. It was an absolute unexpected treat to see both of them on screen. By that I mean Yara and Danny, but I did like some of the words that Tyrion had for Theon. I'm such a huge fan of Cyrano de Bergerac, and I saw, a little bite of a similarity between one of the opening scenes in Cyrano de Bergerac, where he's talking about the insults that he gets for having a big nose, and it was just I inside my little heart just beat little pitter pats for it, and I was so excited. It just made me love that character even more, and now I see them as kind of similar because they were both witty and society decided they were deformed and such, and it was just oh, Cyrano. I think Tyrion just gets fucking better and better and better every season. He's one of the few characters I think that you can say that through the length of their progression and to date. You know, he's done some dirty shit, but he's done it. I mean, it's arguably been for the benefit of Westeros.
So you saying that just made me think of the scene from Roxanne.
Yeah.
Steve Martin.
That is such, it's so funny you say that because that's my favorite translation of the actual French play because Steve Martin loved it so much. He was very true to it.
Yeah.
And so that scene is almost, swipe, or what's it called? Cut by cut, but with the sword versus the tennis racket. It's almost exactly the same, just in modern terms. Oh, I love that. I love that you mentioned that. Sorry, I'll stop now.
My only hesitation with Tyrion is not any criticism of the character necessarily, or certainly not the actor, but just I feel like that there's been periods within the series that they didn't really have very much interesting for him to do.
Yep, including this season.
Yeah.
But that's not any criticism at all of how cool the character is generally, or certainly not of Peter Dinklage, who continues to be amazing.
So, are we ready to rate?
I am.
I know I'm not the best to judge, but I think we've got one more comment in here. Okay, so wait.
I don't see any
Matt
more
said,
other than his rating one.
Well, I was going to read the stuff before his rating.
Okay.
Sheriff Bullock said, I'm going to skedaddle, but here was my review. Marine was fantastic, which I think we all agreed on. He wants more Yara and Danny, which I think we all agreed on. Winterfell was disappointing, which is interesting. Okay, so big on spectacle, but he's very disappointed in the Stark children. So fatherly.
So your verbal stumble made me think. So is it Dara or Yanni? What's their ship name?
Yarny. They're Yarny. Oh wait, Danny's got to go first.
So Dara.
Danra. I think she needs more letters. She's a queen.
Dianara.
Darny.
No, that doesn't work.
All right. Ratings.
Ratings. Who has a rating?
I'll go first, and what I'll say is that just in anticipation, I will say that I am sorry that you guys didn't like the episode as much as I did, but I am going to give it an 11 out of 10 flirty smiles.
That is totally allowed because I've done similar ratings. We have to accept that.
I think that while some characters made decisions that I didn't like within the context of the story, I thought that the episode was amazing, and I loved it.
Okay. Chooch?
I am going to give it 6 out of 10 Winterfell pieces of bullshit.
Wow.
Yeah, not very. Because I Marine really saved it for me because there were definitely parts of the Winterfell stuff that I did like that just weren't as many, and with the characters overall I did like it, better than 5, but I didn't buy a lot of the character justifications, obviously, for the bad choices they made. I think they're still doing some lazy writing.
Viv?
Next.
I'm still deciding.
All right, I'll go while you decide.
Okay, good.
I'm going to give it 9.511 pincushions out of 10. I really dug it. I thought it was a great episode. It's not a full 10 for me just yet, but I think, I'm pretty sure this is the highest. Yeah, this is the highest I've rated an episode this entire season. So I think it's my favorite because of the spectacle, because I've been waiting for a battle like this, and because of all the happies that I got from the dragons. But I dug the Winterfell storyline as well. I mean, it was riveting. Kept me going. Viv?
Okay. So I thought that the episode was fantastic. I liked it way better than last week's. I still have to give it a 9 because I love the show and I struggle to go below like 8. But there were things that bothered me as far as like there were just I mean you've already heard me say it, but and it made us fight. Christiana, my fiance. Oh
I'm sorry.
no.
I wouldn't. It wasn't a fight. It was a
It's
spirited discussion
Spirited
with
Yes.
respect towards the other person's point of view.
always trying for respect.
Yes.
But
So
yeah,
I
think that's
have
right.
I have a question for everybody. We did this a couple seasons ago, but I'd like to do it this season as well. What do you think the last scene of next episode will be? And you can be
You
vague.
totally stole my thing, Nutty. I always do that. Good, you get to track it this time.
I'm totally going to track it this time.
Good.
So is this one where we write in before it airs?
No, tell me now.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't get
Oh,
much
but that's
time.
Yeah.
Oh, influence.
Because again, it's
I-
like there's no question of book spoilers here because this is
Yep.
all past the books.
I still kind of feel like I like the idea of us not like talking about it until after the episode, and then I think that we won't spoil like each other's possible predictions.
Okay, fine. Then everybody email me your ideas.
Hey, dude, it was just a suggestion.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
I'm not.
I
ain't
was
fucking
giving in. I was
Danny.
like, fine, then email it to me because I can't
was
pick
the
it out of your
viewpoint.
brain.
Well, no, that's just how we've done it in the past. Is that it was like top secret, and then we talked about it on the show.
All right. So email me, and I'm going to say this to listeners as well. To make it easy, we'll just send that to the btw@specficmedia.com. Send an email of what you think the last scene of next week's episode will be. You don't have
Before
to be
the
super
fade to
specific.
black.
Yeah, before it fades to black. You don't have to be super specific. You can say, Tyrion, he's dancing on the Iron Throne and eating pudding, whatever.
Pudding. I
with
thought you
a
were going
honeycomb.
somewhere totally else with that.
A honeycomb
her name is
and a
Pudding.
jackass.
We're never gonna get that joke. Damn it.
So if you do write in, obviously you will get an entry for our drawing because the end of the season's almost here. $50 gift card coming. And hey, if you get it right, let's say you get like what? Bonus 10 entries?
10. That's a lot. I
5?
say 5. Yeah, 5.
Well, we got to keep it in scale with what we're giving for our iTunes reviews, which is how many
True.
points is that again, Chooch?
5.
5 points
I've
for an
only gotten
iTunes review.
2 so far. Yeah,
And we thank you too for giving us the reviews.
very much. Anything else? I think that's everything.
Yep.
Yeah, so next up's big finale.
What's the name of it?
Everybody, the winds
I'm
of
sorry.
winter.
Yes. the
Oh,
Winds of
right.
Winter.
No, I actually forgot. That's why I asked.
Yeah, so it'll be Winds of Winter, and
Which we know is the name of the next book.
mhm.
So that to me says we're all going to be spoiled.
Just hoping there'll be a big surprise, and it'll fade to black, and then they'll have George announce that the new book is dropping tomorrow, or that'll
That would
never
be
happen.
nice, but that's not happening.
That'll never happen.
You
But
can't keep secrets like that today. Like that
Yeah.
kind of a secret is just impossible. It would have been leaked on the internet somewhere because somebody stole pages out of the printing press,
yeah, only Apple can do that. Or well, like apparently, so the whole Walking Dead last thing was a big spoiler, and when they filmed
baby.
what
That was good burn.
Oh, okay.
what was a burn? I'll
Never
get what you
mind.
mean.
Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. I think I misspoke. The walking at the end of it, there was a big cliffhanger. I think I said there was a big spoiler, but there was this huge cliffhanger. And so, as not to spoil it, when they filmed the outcome, apparently they filmed 11 outcomes.
Nice.
So they filmed everything that could have happened. So nobody really does know, even people on the set.
Didn't they do something like that with Breaking Bad?
Yeah, I want to say, I think there was a...
Yeah, maybe.
I
I don't
multiple
know.
thing, but
They've been doing that for a long time. They did 3 different endings for the movie. God damn it. Is it Clue?
Oh, Clue?
Yeah, Clue. They did 3 different endings, and depending on where you
7.
were, you saw a different ending.
I think that was different, though. It wasn't about spoilers. It was about just...
The game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some people to go see it multiple times,
Yeah, although I have to
added bonus.
I love that movie, and yet I've only ever seen it with the home video version where it just puts the 3 endings back to back. And honestly, I think it's stupid to watch it any other way. And
Except for if you're sitting in the theater when it comes out, like that's how I saw it.
I know. I'm not blaming anybody who went to see it. I'm not saying that it. What I'm saying is their original plan to have only one ending, and just depending on where you saw it, you got a different ending. That's dumb. I don't like that. So I don't mean that people are dumb for watching it that way. It was fun and exciting
and new and innovative. That's how old I am.
Okay.
It was a gimmick. I thought it was a fun gimmick.
I feel like I would be mad at the possibility of having to see it 3 times in the theater to see the 3 different
but
endings.
I mean, I don't know how much older I am than you, Christiana, but I don't know that we have the same completist kind of mentality. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I really don't know. Like there's no film that I've ever followed more than in my later years, but I think that like we waited so long for these serials to pay off, and most of the times they never came again. I don't know. I don't think, like I never felt the need to go and see the other 2 versions until I came across the DVD that had all 3 versions. I was like, oh my God, I can finally see the other 2. And I mean, that movie came out in the 80s, I think.
Yeah.
Had to be the 80s. I'm not that old.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Right, are we talking about the 1946 Clue?
The Crow.
I guess my point is really just that I think the movie works best the way it is on the DVD now, where it just plays the 3 endings back to back. I think that's a better movie than just any one of the endings by itself and not showing the others. I think it makes the movie better to show all 3 back to back like that.
Interesting.
You're wrong.
Well,
just kidding.
That is going to do it for us. For reals. This episode. So, finale. We will do our live broadcast. Next week we will not be doing a live reaction.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so full regular streaming episode Wednesday, and be released to the podcast shortly thereafter as soon as we can get it done. So that's it for us.
And if I may, real quick.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for folks to keep on giving us feedback, because we will be collecting points numbers of entry during episode 10 as well. We won't be revealing the winner until we do our finale episode, which will be after the last episode that we cover for the actual series itself.
So the reveal won't be until our wrap-up episode, right?
Precisely so.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
If you have feedback for the Beyond the Wall podcast, you can email us at btw@specficmedia.com. You can also leave us a comment on the website. Go to specficmedia.com, where you'll find a shiny BTW button. That'll take you right to our page. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike 3.0 Unported license. Feel free to share and remix. Just give us credit and don't charge money for it.